It was time to move on again. We were on the very last section of the tour and would be off to spend our last night in the foothills of Mount Kenya. There were a few minutes available while everyone finished breakfast, so we headed out into the close-by grounds for a last wander. Morning birds included the northern red-billed hornbill and a splendid spotted morning thrush, living up to both parts of its name. We were soon joined by most of the other members of our party, leaving our drivers to manhandle the luggage aboard the vans. Pygmy Battis had also shown up to bid us farewell, as did black-throated Barbet. There was nothing new for us, but it was good to get very nice views of white-bellied go-away bird. We hadn't had such good views previously. Once loaded up, we headed out on the drive to the Emoji Gate to leave the reserve. Still, it was some distance away and we were going to bird the whole way. First up was an elusive rosy-patched bushshrike. Well, it wasn't that elusive, just a little shy. It was good to find a watchful adult martial eagle too. This would be our last one. A white-browed sparrow weaver also showed well on the side of the track. Today would be a side-of-the-track sort of day. A rather distant lesser kestrel was followed by our best views of Secretarybird from anywhere on the trip. We hadn't seen this species since the Mara Triangle. They may be birds, but somehow they don't look natural standing in trees. Distant, but beautifully posed, was this black-winged kite and a lilac-breasted roller. We had to make the most of every sighting now, even of relatively common birds, as we wouldn't be seeing them for much longer. An unstriped ground squirrel stopped briefly at the side of the track as we rumbled past. Superb starling popped up as well. A male and female Somali ostrich walked along, foraging as they went. It was good to have a second sighting of these majestic birds, after our hunt for them yesterday. Our walking birds were heading towards a substantial flock of a few males and many females at some distance from us. A new sandgrouse for the trip. Chestnut-bellied sandgrouse joined black-faced sandgrouse on our lists and was the second lifer sandgrouse of the tour. A third sandgrouse showed up almost immediately. Liechtenstein sandgrouse, the males with the very distinctive black and white barred face, were also in the brushes at the side of the track. This one was not a lifer, but it had been a long time since we'd last seen one, back in Israel in 1996. A real treat. We had seen odd buff-crested bustards over the last couple of days, but not great or photographable views, so we were delighted when this lovely bird decided to walk down the edge of the track towards us. The field guide illustrations really do not do this bird justice. We arrived at the Emoji Gate and piled out for a leg stretch and calls of nature. The little swifts were still in residence on the ceiling of the gatehouse. It seems odd to think that we actually saw one of these birds in Nottingham, back when we lived in the UK. We were heading south to Mount Kenya with a few stops on the way. One was a photo opportunity as we crossed the equator, something we had done numerous times before on this trip, and one was for boar and Cisticola, which was seen but distant and not photographable. Lunch was taken at a souvenir shop where bronze mannequins bounced around on the grass. So far the weather had been fine, but that was to change as we neared Mount Kenya, with its very own microclimate. The heavens opened and the poor ladies selling fruit on the roadside were getting drenched. The plan had been to explore the Castle Forest section of Mount Kenya National Park for a couple of hours, but that was soon abandoned, in favour of an early arrival at our final night's lodging. Castle Forest Lodge, in the national park, was a rustic-looking spot. Most of the party were accommodated in a string of wooden huts at the top of the hill. We, as the only married couple, were given a two-bedroom cottage halfway down towards the main building. Streaky seed-eaters were active in the undergrowth by the cottage. Thankfully, the rain had subsided to a light drizzle, so we didn't need the umbrellas thoughtfully provided by our guides. The group headed down to the main lodge house, furnished with a covered veranda and a view down the valley, to do some birding. Takaz sunbirds were obvious in the bushes surrounding the lodge. An Abyssinian thrush was a nice sighting, as was a hunter's Cisticola. We hadn't seen the latter species since the very first day, back at Manguo Marsh. Other old favourites included white-eyed slaty flycatcher and bagler-effect weavers, the latter birds looking very fetching in a gleam of weak afternoon sunshine. This lodge building was where we would take our meals and afternoon tea, very civilized. It might look rustic, but the staff were very attentive and the food was excellent. They even offered to light a fire in our cottage's fireplace, so the room would be warm when we returned, but we decided we weren't that cold. It was a peaceful last night in Africa and the morning dawned sunny. We would spend the morning in the castle forest area, taking lunch at the lodge before we headed to Nairobi. A driving trip was scheduled, which we decided to sit out due to a bad back. Instead, we sat on the veranda and watched the common bulbuls, white-eyed slaty flycatchers, and bagler-effect weavers disporting themselves in the sun. A smart eastern double-collared sunbird showed well. Even while restricted to the lodge veranda, we were still able to pick up new birds. Delegorgue's pigeon, also known as eastern bronze-naped pigeon, was one. They were quite distant, in foliage down the hill from the lodge, but quite obvious. The male has a white half-collar and a splendid iridescent green head. The female Delegorgue's pigeon is a little less showy, but she does have a bronzer-coloured nape, as the alternative name suggests. We also saw, but did not photograph, Ramran pigeon here. A tiny little lizard seemed to be living in the wooden banister rail of the veranda and would pop out every so often to give us a good looking at. It was identified, by our reptile expert Washington, as Kilimanjaro forest lizard. Back in the foliage, a grey-headed nigrita caught our attention. The nigrita shared its bush with a Kikuyu white-eye, a Kenyan endemic. A very smart mountain, or black-tailed oriole showed very well. Nearby, a Kikuyu, or eastern mountain greenbull also obliged with good views. And then another lifer popped up, a thick-billed seed-eater. Really, we had done very well for species just sitting here in comfort on the veranda and resting that painful back, a legacy of a rather bouncy drive from Sopa Samburu Lodge to Umoja Gate yesterday morning. A couple of last species from the lodge garden, red-eyed dove and yellow-whiskered greenbull. The rest of the group returned, with tails of crested guineafowl and greenbulls, and we went in for lunch. Castle Forest Lodge had done us proud. Time to load up the vans for the very last time and head for Nairobi. Quite a long trip that would be broken up by just a couple of stops. We couldn't dally too long, we had a plane to catch. Still, we did stop to take a last look at a troop of black and white colobus monkeys in trees at the side of the track leading down from Castle Forest. Our main stop on the way to Nairobi, other than at a shopping mall for ice cream and cash points, would be for 10 minutes at a rice farm, Mwea, which is a site for widowbirds and bishops. Thus it was that the last 3 species for our Kenya trip were yellow-crowned bishop, village indigo bird, and white-winged widowbird. It was a nice efficient twitch. We arrived back in Nairobi late afternoon and were taken for a very pleasant meal at an airport hotel, the 4 Points. It was a chance to do the final checklist of the trip, chat over our meal, say thank you to our excellent guides and drivers, and have a quick wash and brush up in the hotel bathroom. We would be on that plane for a long time. Everything had gone very smoothly for the entire trip, minor medical issues notwithstanding. Our guides were very professional, helpful, and friendly, and did an excellent job of keeping everyone happy, enthused and informed. The lodges were all great and the food was excellent, even the packed lunches. The safari vans were comfortable and perfect for wildlife viewing. And, of course, all the wildlife, birds, animals, reptiles, insects, was fabulous. We didn't want to leave. And what were our final species counts? Well, we had 564 species of bird, 52 mammals, 19 reptiles, and 28 insects. Not bad at all. For more information about our wonderful birding safari, see our 3-volume travelogue, in ebook and paperback format, from Amazon. Want to see more of our birding adventures? Take a look at our Australian Birding Adventure series. Videos are on our YouTube channel and travelogues are available from Amazon. We hope you enjoyed this video. If so, please like and subscribe to our channel. There are 20 videos in the Kenyan Birding Safari series. Have you seen them all? Thanks for watching.